Hello?
Hi.
Are you coming to the happy hour? I need to vent.
I'm still at the office.
Oh my god, are you trying to be CEO or something?
Yeah.
You'll get there, but I'll see you at happy hour.
Welcome back, everybody. Today's guest is a true creative powerhouse, Madi Atkins. She's a fashion photographer, creative producer, and the founder of her own creative agency, Madness Studio.
I'm especially excited about today's conversation because Madi is my former boss, someone I've shared countless stories and laughs with while working on projects for New York Fashion Week, Cartier Women's Initiative, and various brands. Madi, so ever since I've known you, I've really admired your journey. You started as a photographer for Brandy Melville in their early days, and you've become this self-driven creative force. Can you kind of take us a bit back to the beginning and walk us through how your career unfolded and brought you to where you are now?
Well, first off, thank you guys for having me and thank you for that lovely intro. So I have been a photographer. I've always loved photography. I got my first camera. It was a Polaroid camera when I was 11 years old. My grandpa gave it to me. Throughout high school, I developed my love for photography. I went to the School of Visual Arts summer program in New York for a summer when I was a sophomore in high school. And then I came back and I started portrait business in my hometown. I would take photos of my friends all the time. And I just really fell in love with photography and especially capturing people. So in college, my interest in fashion grew a lot and I naturally kind of got into fashion photography. I think there's something with like capturing the essence of a person and bringing the character of fashion together. I essentially spent a summer like curating my portfolio to look like Brandy Melville because I loved Brandy Melville at the time. It was like 2014 peak Brandy Melville. And I landed a gig as the photographer there in Boston my senior year in college. So I was working pretty much full time and then going to class at night. Brandy Melville, that role, like as a photographer in Boston, really opened up my career path. I started doing casting, so I would cast like new models. I would travel to New York back and forth. And through that, I really fell in love with New York and decided I wanted to move there. So after college, I graduated and landed a job full time as chief content creator for Cynthia Raleigh, where I would do all the photo and video for her. We did films, we did photo all the time. I was like shooting, capturing bloggers. So about like 8 months into my first full-time job, I just decided to take the jump and I went freelance and I was a freelance photographer. That was like in early 2017 until COVID. And I started shooting a lot of like lifestyle women's brands like Show Me Your Mumu, BB, Kenzie, stuff like that. And during that time, I also taught myself how to shoot video. And at the time, fashion didn't have like a lot of easy produced video. Video was just starting to get big on social. Usually when people were doing video for campaigns, they were like huge productions. And so being able to do video and offer video to clients was like a huge leg up for me. And that's really how I got doors open to a lot of my biggest clients. And that led me to get a campaign for BB in Times Square. And then I started shooting for New York Fashion Week, Australia Fashion Week through IMG. And then COVID hit. I was supposed to go to Australia. I had all these projects lined up. I was like, okay, I have to pivot. So I basically started Madness during COVID in my mom's garage in San Diego. It was a digital marketing agency and creative production. The idea with Madness is that it was catered towards like luxury clients to help modernize luxury brands on the digital landscape, because I noticed that there was a big gap in the market of luxury brands on social media. Like some of them didn't even have Instagram. Definitely didn't have TikTok usually. And I had a background in social media. I also worked on Cynthia Raleigh's social media. Brandy Melville's very social driven company. Started Madness. That's where Madeline came. She was one of my first team members, along with like a few other people. And honestly, they like ran the company with me. It was very scrappy and it was very startup, but it was really great. I mean, we did so much in that time. We had clients like New York Fashion Week. We did Veracity, which is like a skincare brand, Cartier Women's Initiative, Scarcelli Diamonds, which is like the colored diamond company. Really amazing work, doing everything photo, video, lo-fi, TikTok, social media for all of these clients. We expanded and like got to do a bunch of cool projects. And then New York Fashion Week was taking up a lot of my scope and a lot of my time. And they asked me to basically go in-house. So I went in-house for IMG Fashion and basically ran all the content and social for New York Fashion Week. And luckily I was like able to bring a lot of my team with me there. So I was there for like 2.5 years and I just kind of wanted to get back to photography. And so now I'm back out and I'm freelancing again. I also like wanted to make a jump and move to LA, which I did to be closer to my family, which is great. So I'm back, I'm freelancing. I'm doing like a lot of events, content strategy, photo, video for different brands.
It's amazing. And I often will talk to people about my personal career and they'll say, when did you really develop this work ethic? I'm like, well, I used to work at this place called Madness. And it's really where I feel like we did so much. And oftentimes we did it within extremely short timelines. And it helped me develop a sort of feeling of, okay, I can do anything. Like we would shoot campaigns in like a week or even less than that, full on produce fashion videos in 24-hour turnarounds. It was such a great experience for that reason. It's honestly altered a lot of how I've gone into jobs since then, because I'm like, y'all are taking way too long to get this done. Like, give it to Madness. We would have this done like in record time. But it was such an amazing experience. And I remember we would be literally convincing brands to get on TikTok. It was like kind of the start of TikTok. And, a lot of brands, especially in the luxury space, weren't even prepared and didn't see the value. But it's crazy to see, now brands are like, do we still need to be on TikTok? Like, what's happening? So it's been cool to see that pivot in social media.
Even brands today still in the luxury, even contemporary space, they don't prioritize TikTok because they don't think that their audience is there, but they're missing out on a massive new customer base.
Right. And then you see like brands, one or the other brand go on it.
Can we talk a little bit more about your experience with New York Fashion Week? I mean, it's a huge production, and Madeline always talks about you guys and all of your crazy stories behind the scenes, working late nights. Like, just if you could kind of give an overview of what it's like to be in the craziness of all of it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Madeline was like basically CEO, like running the whole scene. She definitely like has one of the strongest work ethics of anyone that I know. So it's so appreciative. And I'm so glad that you like have that skill set, because hard work is something that I really admire and value in team members. And we definitely got a lot done. New York Fashion Week, I think people like don't always see it from the front side of it, but it's like really, it's beautiful chaos. There's a lot that goes on. Essentially, we're kind of building out, it starts months before. You're building out like a whole show schedule and then figuring out your team, what you need, how many photographers, how many videographers. If you have all these different social accounts, the social media managers for each of them, the editors, and then you have partners of New York Fashion Week. So you have social obligations for those partners, and like there's people that specifically that's their job is to like manage those and create those. So it's like very advanced planning. And then you essentially, I think like the biggest thing that's different with New York Fashion Week and traditional other projects that I had worked on prior is like the turnaround times, because you're covering events, and events like they want real-time coverage. So you are, expected to produce real-time and very quick coverage of events as quickly or before the other press outlets get out. But you also can't compromise like the quality and the aesthetic. And New York Fashion Week is luxury. And so you want to be sure everything is high end, like everything is tight. So we were running things. Everything was very, very planned out. Everybody has a designated role. We have like a schedule. We know who's going to what show, who's editing, how it's getting there, where the Dropbox link is. Like every little detail is so planned. And because the day just goes on and it's so back to back, it really is like a sprint for essentially for a week. And then I think the cool thing about it is that like you do all of that and you're so exhausted. But at the end, when you see all of this stuff that you've created in literally a week, it's like pretty crazy. Especially in comparison, I used to work on campaigns for like a whole summer, and it was like one campaign, and that's amazing. But like getting to see all of this stuff that you did in just 1 week it's really cool.
Or getting to see the show too. Like you really get a reward,
For sure. Yeah.
I mean, that's the cool thing about Fashion Week. It's like you work so hard, and then all of a sudden for 15 seconds, you get to see the show and you remember it. This is why I'm here. This is why I worked so hard. It's such a cool moment.
Yeah. And I think that was a big thing, like for me, is making sure that everybody on the team got to go and like was there at a show, as much as possible, just because there's so many people. And like, obviously we need a lot of people behind the scenes, but the reward of getting to see that show that's what makes it all worth it. And that's when you're like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. So
yeah, I want to hit on something you mentioned about building a team and the hiring process, because I think one of the hardest parts of your role is really putting together that sort of task force to help all these things get done. And it's kind of hard to put the right people in place, find the right people, because it is such a hard project to take on. What qualities do you kind of look for when you are building those teams?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think for me, the number one trait that I value is hard worker. I just think it's so important, especially in like a project like that where it's easy to get burnt out because the hours are so long, the days are so long. You have to want to be doing it. It's not like for everyone, and that's totally okay. So like someone who's a really hard worker and like really wants to be there for sure. Obviously, I look towards like portfolio, matching, like making sure that people are aligned. And I think for me, like I'm always making sure they're aligned with whatever like niche creative thing we need. So if it's someone that's like, if I need like a lo-fi creator, that's like the kind of the portfolio that I'm looking for. And then also like someone who's innovative and like on top of trends and newness. I think someone who's like aware of like, oh, this is trending right now. So like you can bring this idea and this will perform better if you're doing something for social, or like this style of photography, like Ned, one of our photographers, like he's always like, this style of photography is like really trending right now. And I love that. I love that he's like bringing that to the table and offering us a fresh perspective every season.
Everyone is like, I want to work for New York Fashion Week. And I'm like, yes, it's such a great thing to do. Of course you're going to want to do it, but you got to be brutally honest to the people of like what it really takes to get there, because it's hard.
Yeah, for sure. It's like, I tell people very straight up, these are the hours, this is like our schedule, this is how it works. If it's not a fit, if you have a lot of the time they're like full-time contracts. So like if they have another thing going on, it like maybe won't work as well during that time, whatever it is.
It's insane. I mean, it's definitely a different breed in like the best way ever, like you guys work insane hours during that week.
Izzy, from your perspective too, since you work in-house at a brand, what is that? Have y'all done a show recently, or what is the process like planning in-house for even events that are in a similar kind of world?
I mean, we did not participate the last few seasons in Fashion Week, but this upcoming year is our like 10th anniversary, and I know that they're planning now. I mean, months and months in advance it's happening, but it's very cool to see like, different sides of it.
Yeah, I'll be curious when they do it, like how it goes into your role.
I know.
Like, yeah.
Well, a lot of our competitors are like going full steam ahead, and so we're kind of like, oh shit, we need to like get after it because otherwise we're gonna like miss out.
Yeah, because it's so expensive. Like it
costs millions. It's crazy.
So crazy.
And so I'm always so impressed to see a lot of the smaller brands doing these huge shows. And that will always be something in the fashion industry that, I mean, personally, I struggled with it too, is fashion. It's a hard industry because you work so hard, but the pay is never going to compete with other industries. Yeah. So you do really have to love it. And like, especially, I don't know, working at a brand too. I mean, you get so much hands-on experience though. And I think that's what's cool about fashion is fashion's really always like ahead of the curve, and every industry is kind of copying what fashion does. And I think one element of fashion that's really cool is like the brand partnership side. I think that was cool from our experience too, Maddie, like all of the, drink brands or even financial brands wanting to collab with fashion. Like you really do get exposed to so much.
Yeah, for sure. Like, they want to be aligned with fashion because that's like the trendsetters and tastemakers, which ultimately their customers are coming from there.
Yeah. That's great. Maddie, I'm curious, whenever you left Cynthia Rowley to start your own thing, was there anyone in your ear saying like, don't do this, this is a bad idea?
Yeah, like everyone. A lot of people.
Yeah.
Family, friends, colleagues, stuff like that. But family, friends, colleagues. I mean, people were like, you need more experience before you go out and do freelance. Like, you've only been doing this for X amount of time. But the thing is that I had been doing some freelance projects, and I was like, I would spend my weekends like cold emailing different brands. So I was new to New York. I was like really green. Like I was really eager, and I had like so much energy and like excitement to like be able to take on these opportunities. So I didn't care. And looking back, there's like a lot of things that I maybe could have learned before I took that jump. But it worked out, you know.
Sometimes you really just have to throw yourself into it. That's how
Right.
you learn the fastest. That's how you
Yeah.
get the experience that people are going to say you're missing. You just have to do it.
Definitely. It's like sink or swim.
I love that. It's so true though, and I think it's so great because my previous job was at this like small startup jewelry brand, and I mean the experience that I learned like working directly under the CEO like at such a fast pace, such a young age, it's like unmatched, and I think it's like the best thing that anyone young in their career can do.
Yeah, absolutely. At Cynthia Raleigh, it's a very small company. I worked with her directly a lot, so it really gave me like a lot of experience. She helped shape my like taste and my aesthetic, you know, a lot. And just she gave me like a lot of creative freedom too, which I'm really grateful for. And so it was a big learning thing there.
Yeah.
I think it's really important.
That's such an important part of freelancing too in New York is really the aesthetic and creative part of it, because there is a ton of competition. And that's what I think really set you apart with Madness. Of you were starting your own agency, but like as a photographer and as a creator yourself, you understood the polish of work and you knew what you had to create because like you had been behind the lens, and so you kind of knew what kind of talent to hire for different things, you know. So I think that's super important. But also I think one of the hardest things when making that commitment to go out on your own is building confidence, and like confidence in yourself, to put yourself out there, even go to, you know, freelance jobs all by yourself and just kind of like establish yourself and lead teams. Is it just something you naturally had in you, or is it something you kind of had to develop over the years?
I think that, you know, with confidence, like I think that it's something that I definitely developed. It wasn't like I was always super confident in terms of like building a team and like having the confidence to build a team. I think that that's just something that I needed to do. And like, I wasn't able to expand until I could delegate, and I would try to like manage everything on my own. And I just like couldn't do that, you know? And I think at the beginning it was hard because I had an idea of what I wanted, and I like wasn't sure if I hired someone else, if I could get it done at the same aesthetic or the same time. And then I realized like, okay, I need to be able to hand this over. And just by doing that little by little, I saw like how amazing it is to work with other people, like how it actually benefits your projects. It brings other perspectives to the table. With every new thing that I did, and still to this day, there's like a lot of nerves behind it, you know, like starting out with like video or starting out in a new role. Of course, it's like a scary thing. And I just have to remind myself, okay, I've been doing this for like X amount of years. Like I have this skill set. I was hired for this for a reason. I'm good. And like, I'm going to bring my best, and like, I have this.
Yeah. So much of it is really talking yourself into
Yeah.
it. Yeah, I agree.
Totally. And whenever you were first starting off trying to get these like bigger projects, did you have a formula of outreach? You know, do you have any like special tactics that worked better than others?
So I think that at the beginning, at the very beginning, what I would kind of do is like curate my portfolio or like pitch to like match what, you know, the client that I wanted to get or client that I wanted to work for. So like matching their aesthetic. I think that that's something I really look for now with hiring, is like, if it's a specific project, like I want someone who's like doing exactly that. Like I want to see like that exact skill set, because especially if you have like a large pool of applicants or whatever, like that's exactly what I'm looking for. I know that they can do this. So, you know, if there's like a brand or something that I really wanted to work with, maybe I would curate a pitch deck that was like matching like all the pictures on their feed. I even do that when I'm like shooting somebody and I'm like doing a test shoot. I will like look at the pictures on their Instagram and be like, okay, this is the angle that they like, and this is the color that they like in the photos that they post. And like, that's like, this is how I'm going to edit their photos so that they will post them, so that the people that I want, you know, will see that and they'll want to hire me, basically. So things like that, like kind of matching. And then honestly, doing something that like is a differentiator, like Madeline said, there's a lot of competition in the market. So offering something that like other people can't offer. At the time in fashion, video was just not that common to be able to go and do video without like a huge crew, and being able to do it because it's like so much lower cost to do it like just yourself or like with one other person or you and an editor. Being able to offer that was like a huge leg up. And just by doing that and doing a couple things, that really got me just exposure, and over time, people would come to me a lot, which I'm really grateful for, just like through word of mouth and stuff. I think after doing the first few things, I had to do quite a few tests, working for free or like shooting someone for free to get the exposure. But I would have a rule of like when I'm going to stop doing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like after this first or second project that I'm not doing that anymore. Like after I felt like with photography, I'd like gotten to a certain caliber with like a specific industry, like I wasn't going to do that for free anymore. So just doing it to get noticed.
I think a lot about in fashion, it is a career choice that you have to kind of accept being able to do some work for free and you get to learn. And especially with photography and videography, it's not just picking up a camera. You have to know how to connect with the person that you're shooting or the people that you're shooting. You have to learn how to direct. There's so much to it. And that's why it is that one career. If you're going to get into it, you need to be okay with the free work because it's how you get your name out there and it's how you just like learn and get better. And then you finally reach a point where you go, okay, I know I can start charging for this. And you do have to make that flip and just believe in yourself and have confidence because that's how you can make a career in it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, listen, I'm not saying it's like right. I hate that fashion is like that. And unfortunately, it's just not, the rates and stuff don't match up with other industries as much. But I do think people who are in other industries, they have other full-time jobs. They'll be like, I'll do this for free. So like, it's just a hard
Exactly.
entry thing. And then once you establish yourself, obviously you're not working for free anymore. Like,
exactly.
Yeah, there is that catch-22 there.
Yeah. But fashion does have that reputation, but like even from Izzy, your job, you learn that there are a ton of really great career paths that can be really sustainable and rewarding. And, you can get a really great, like high paying job. You just have to kind of find the right place and the right company. And you have to like kind of know what to look for. I mean, I learned too, when I was first looking for jobs, I was in contact with some younger designers that had really small teams. And one of them was like, okay, I want to hire you to do all of our marketing. I was like, oh my God, this is so exciting. And they're like, oh, we'll pay you only like $25 an hour. And I was like, no, so you just kind of have to like know what to look for and be like, okay, yeah, that brand might be really cool. They might have a lot of Instagram followers, but it's not really the most sustainable for my personal growth. And like, you just have to kind of be on the lookout when you are looking for those jobs. But yeah, I'd also love to hear from you, Maddie. What advice do you have for young people trying to enter this industry, either those in college or about to graduate, or even, have already been in a completely different industry and working and they want to make the pivot?
Yeah, I mean, I think that like for people wanting to get into the industry, I think kind of like what I touched on before, like curate your portfolio to be really specific. Like if there's an open role, jump on it quickly and like have your portfolio and have the examples up front. And then, don't be afraid to like follow up. And like, I just know, for example, like when we would post about like open roles for like New York Fashion Week, we would get like flooded, and so people who follow up 2, 3, 4 times, those are the people that I'm noticing, especially like if they have examples at the forefront. And then I think just like being innovative and like being able to offer something, I think like it was so great, especially like at Madness, like working with you, Madeline, and like Ashley and everyone, and even at WME, because you guys are like Gen Z and you brought like a fresh perspective to the table. And that's like something that we really needed. And so just being able to offer that, showing that you're like aware of like what's going on the social landscape and like how you would bring that into the work that you're going to do with these brands that you want to work with, I think is always a great idea.
That's true. I love that, like, matching the aesthetic at the top of the portfolio, because I mean, even just like non-creative roles, like if you tailor your resume to match the job description that you want, it's like the same principle the whole way around. And I mean, people don't have time to look through your entire thing. Like they're not gonna like look to the end of your portfolio and be like, oh, this one thing that you did 2 years ago I really like. So, and even in fashion, it's such a fast-paced environment that like I love that. It's great.
Yeah, I think that's a good skill set.
One thing that just came to mind, though, is another skill set that I feel like, Maddie, you really were my like professor in teaching me this, was how to make a deck and how important it is to literally just make a deck. Like most jobs in marketing and advertising and fashion are really, a lot of it is like making decks, and it's a skill that you have to be good at. And oh my gosh, like how many decks did we make?
Yeah, so many. Oh my gosh, like our own case studies and like how Business of Fashion does those like yearly reports. We had like a Madness version.
Yeah.
For what?
I know. Oh my gosh.
Making a deck, I think, is great. And like, if that's the good thing, if you have a portfolio website, but then if you also have like a supplementary deck,
Yeah.
you know, where it's like showing that specific work where you can quickly switch out images to have at the top of it, sometimes that's easier than like rearranging your entire website. So I
Yeah.
think that it's for sure a good.
Well, a
thing.
deck is good too because there might be stuff you're not really allowed to put on your website or you don't want to put
Yeah.
on your website. It's more tailored to a specific brand. If you kind of make a custom portfolio in a deck, it can be a little bit more impactful.
Definitely.
We've worked on so many projects together. You've done so many projects. Do you have a favorite or a favorite story of something at work that just really made you stop and be like, okay, I love my career? Just such a, stopping moment for you.
One of my favorite projects was, when I first went freelance and I was shooting a lot of lookbooks, which I love doing. They're still like one of my favorite projects today. I shot my first time with Show Me Your Moo, I shot their lookbook in Tulum. It was their resort lookbook. And it was so great. I had never met the team. I was connected through like a mutual friend. And because I had shot for Brandy, they thought my portfolio was aligned. And they needed a photographer who wanted to travel and like shoot their lookbooks, which is literally the best job ever. So I flew out and met them in Tulum. It was like a team of all women. It was really amazing. Like we were staying at Nomade and we shot there and it's like so beautiful and the colors just like matched perfectly. And they really like gave me a lot of creative freedom, which is why it's like one of my favorite projects. They trusted me to direct, to set the shots, and I got to work so hands-on with like them, with the makeup artists, with the stylist. Like we would plan out, where everything was going to be shot, how the different things were going to happen. It was like a Frida Kahlo inspired shoot. And honestly, just because of that and like the creative freedom they gave me, it's like one of my favorite projects still. And those photos are some of my favorite photos that I've ever taken. So for sure, like I think that really stood out in my mind, especially because it was like the first time that I had gone on like a traveling lookbook shoot like that. So yeah.
That's awesome. I know we know what a lookbook is, but can you just like explain a little to our audience, like what is a lookbook?
Yeah, for sure. So like a lookbook is essentially you have like e-com photography and then you have a lookbook, and a lot of brands they'll shoot e-com, which is like white backdrop. That's what you see online, like for people to shop. And then a lookbook they'll send out to like buyers and stuff, and that will show their looks like very editorially. And now in today's day and age, a lookbook will also be a lot of the time used as like the social or supplementary content that people are showing in like emails and stuff. So it looks like a magazine when it's in print, I guess, like maybe like a little bigger and thicker. And that just shows it in like an editorial story. So something that you might see, like if it's like a dress and a headband, like that you would see in different places online, these will be like kind of put together in an environment. So whether if it's like a swimwear, like maybe they'll be in like Miami, like a bunch of different people, different models. It just brings like the looks to life editorially.
I love lookbook. It always gets us so excited for like the upcoming collection where we just shot our lookbook for like holiday and resort, and we're all like, oh my god, it's so exciting because we haven't even seen the line yet. Like only product has seen it.
Wow.
So
yeah,
it's really fun to see it in a full story.
Yeah, it's really cool. I think it gets you super excited about that collection. I think it can like really bring it to life for people, you know what I mean? Like showing and giving them inspiration for how they're going to wear it.
Totally.
Has a lookbook evolved really with social media and bringing it more to the public and off of print at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Kind of in the same way as a fashion show has evolved.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like initially the intent is obviously for buyers to see it. And then as it's like evolved now, like everything, it's kind of like for PR, for social, for digital, for web, it just adds like a different perspective. So I think for sure it's like evolved, and today's, that's like a lot of the brands like content maybe.
Totally. Like you said, it serves as like a supplementary form of content. We're always like, wait, we don't have any more content. And then we're like, oh my God, wait, we have this amazing lookbook shoot we haven't posted any photos from. We need to use these. They're awesome.
It helps like bring your brand aesthetic back. You know what I mean? Sometimes when you need stuff to do that.
Totally.
For those listening, New York Fashion Week happens twice a year. Fall, winter shows in February, spring, summer in September. So what is kind of the planning process for those two? But also, what are some of the other what does an off season look like when Fashion Week isn't in full swing? Like there's other big moments. And I know, Maddie, you would do a lot with Met Gala and other moments as well.
For me, it's like, Met Gala is a really big time. anything is that are like cultural moments or cultural pinpoints, like Art Basel. A few years ago, I used to work with Swim Week a lot. Met Gala, there was just so much going on in New York during that time, just because like people will come in, the talent will come in and they'll be going. And so then brands want to do like a ton of events around it, or shoots or whatever it may be. So, anything that's like a cultural moment, there's usually a lot of opportunities there that we try to plan around. And then in otherwise in the off season for me, I do social content strategy consulting stuff, work like that. And then I also will do creative projects for brands that are not in fashion sometimes. So beauty, tech, whatever it may be, like just consumer products, stuff like that.
One thing I think about with Fashion Week and stuff like Met Gala is it is such a crowded period. And since it has evolved, like the actual purpose of these events have evolved a bit, I wonder why aren't brands more focused on kind of creating their own moment or kind of gravitating towards a moment that there isn't a ton of noise around. I feel like we've seen some brands do stuff like this. Like I think like Jacquemus has really leaned into their new store openings or like different pop-ups. And I think while like New York Fashion Week and Met Gala is like a great opportunity for not even just fashion brands, like all brands, I wonder if more fashion brands are going to start realizing, okay, this is like a really crowded period. Maybe we should kind of lean into putting our investment somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good point. It's very crowded. There's a lot going on. I think sometimes because they're cultural tentpole moments, like there's people, it's like an easier opportunity that's like maybe lower cost, and like Jacquemus has done an amazing job. And I think you have a point, like doing more things like that where like they're going into a store moment. I think if you have the reach where like you can, and like the same customer fan base that like Jacquemus has, that's an amazing opportunity to like not be so focused on something that like a million other brands are doing. And I think it's more and more. Hopefully we'll see that.
I know. I mean, I feel like with brands doing a lot of different collabs, is another opportunity that they can kind of break through in these like softer moments because you just want to get people talking about your brand at the end of the day, So it's like if Tory Burch is doing a collab with Bon Bon, like during the beginning of summer, they want you to talk about it, and we are talking about it, so they succeeded. But Jacquemus, their marketing is great. I love it.
Amazing, yeah, such an amazing
I'm obsessed with it. Every new thing that they do.
Yeah, brand collabs are I think that's such a good, I think it will always be such a good marketing strategy just because it's so easy. For example, the Tory Burch and Bon Bon. Tory Burch is a brand that, fell off a little bit. It had a really hot moment, and I think the generation of people who grew up with Tory Burch or loved Tory Burch, just got a little bit older, interested in new brands. And anytime a legacy brand's trying to make a comeback, I feel like brand partnerships are so smart. So I think like Bon Bon, it's, everyone's raving about Swedish candy. There's lines out the door. And I think that was such a smart move for Tory Burch and just any brand that is having a hard time getting the reach that they want or the right audience. Like a brand partnership, such an easy way to kind of make that connection.
Yeah,
totally.
Agreed.
Maddie, are there any brands, like you said you work with some like random tech brands or like CPG or beauty, any that you were maybe like less excited to work with, but like it surprised you at the end of the day that you were like, oh wow, I actually could be so creative with this, and it turned out great?
That's a good question. I don't want to say I was like less excited to work with them because it's always like exciting doing a new thing. I think that for example, like Global Citizen is like this, it's like a festival, but it's like a big organization to end global poverty, and like it's charity kind of. So I did something with them where like they needed a Snapchat filter essentially that I like designed. And honestly, it was like during COVID and I really needed to get some work. So I did that, and it was like a lot. Like there was a lot going on there, but it was really cool after it launched, obviously, because like I had designed this like AR Snapchat filter. So that was cool. I did a video for Brookstone, which that was like it was kind of random, and like it was with an agency that had hired me for BB and all of these videos. And since it was like so one-off, it was, I think like we weren't sure. It was kind of a different project because we weren't shooting. We were using stock footage and then like storyboarding that, making a story, getting a voiceover artist, and like going from there. So that was like a very different project, but I actually like really liked the way the video turned out. So that was pretty cool. And consumer products focused.
It always amazes me when like Duolingo, for example, like their marketing is great, but like it's
Amazing,
such
yeah.
a random product, But
Mhm.
brands need to like have more fun with, their creative.
They
I
also,
think.
the most important thing there is like they need to have people in leadership that will say yes, because I
True.
think
Totally.
that I'm sure a lot of brands try to get this stuff approved, but there's a lot of leadership that's like, no, this is too risky or this could damage our brand. But a lot of times they don't really understand social media. And I think that Duolingo, what really the success is there is that the leadership just said yes and said,
Yeah.
it will take this risk.
Agreed. And it's like, I mean, it's amazing that, I think that girl, her name is like Zaria, like she's
Mhm.
made that account what it is today. And like, she really developed like their voice and their social identity. And like they
Yeah.
comment on people's videos and do all this stuff with brand partnerships. When we were doing in my last role, like we would have a partnership and we'd be like, okay, this is like what the content should look like. And they're like, well, that doesn't really, I don't know that our brand would like say that or be on this platform. But at the same time, they want the engagement. And so, you have to be able to like, you can't be reading from like a script when you're doing like a social ad. If you want to be getting engagement, it's just not going to perform. And so being able to like have that freedom and like get that trust, with the brand, I think is really important and a key to success.
For sure.
That's awesome. I mean, how do you go about that? Like if the brand is saying like giving you pushback on your idea or how you're thinking of going about it, like what do you do?
I think it's kind of like a special formula and it really has like a lot of factors that are dependent. I think the best way is to like show case studies, show
Right.
numbers, like show how you've done it before with similar brands, how like different, if it's like a video, then how like other videos have been successful doing that. And then how what they're doing, or maybe like, in comparison, something similar is not really performing. And like even getting them to agree to like A/B test or just do one video to start and see, and then you have like a backup plan. Like it's always like a push and pull. And I think that that's, it's like always a tricky thing. It depends on who the leadership is. Like if you're in a company, like maybe your manager needs to support you and like pitching that. But yeah.
Totally. That's so funny.
Yeah.
I feel like A/B test is like the name of the game. Like I'm always like, okay,
Yeah.
well, what if we test it and we can see if it works and then go from there.
Someone we recently had on the podcast actually mentioned how usually the best ideas fail the testing. And I actually kind of agree with that. I think, you can't, culture will react. You can never really test out the way culture will react to something because you might put like in testing, it's just a different lens. And if you put something out there, like it might not be the actual idea that makes something go super viral or get a lot of engagement. It might be, someone else's reaction to the idea or like even a comment on the idea. You never know. So I thought that was like an interesting take.
For sure. I mean, you never really know. You know what I mean? Like you never know. Like, a video could flop during the test. And like if you have someone that like can back you up or like you have proof that the strategy will work, like if it's like a long-term implication, then maybe you can keep going. But yeah, you're right. You never know for sure.
Yeah. And so like such a big part of marketing is, I think if you have an idea you really believe in, is pushing it through, because it's just like starting a business, honestly, and people are going to tell you no. But if you really believe in something, you just have to keep pushing it. Curious, Maddie, are you on Substack or are you reading Substack at all?
I've read a little bit. I'm like I'm an auditory person, so like I listen to so many podcasts and like I've read some Substacks from like creators that I follow that I really like, but I'm not super.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking is just because like from your content strategy lens, because a lot of brands are starting to get on there. Like Izzy and I have seen a bunch of beauty brands, like the Real has their own Substack, Say Beauty, the Rare Beauty just started a Substack. People on Substack that are like diehard Substack fans are saying, this isn't really a place for brands. And I don't know, it kind of reminds me of the start of TikTok. So I'm kind of curious, like from your point of view.
Yeah, I mean, I think that people are always gonna have like pushback. There's always gonna be a new platform. It's like as much as it's.
Wait, what was the platform that
Oh my God, there's so many that we've gone through. There's like Lemonade, there was Clubhouse.
Oh my
Clubhouse. Oh my God.
Clubhouse, where we did our whole. What? Yeah,
I
big.
remember being in a clubhouse with like Elon Musk, and I was like, oh my god, Elon Musk is fun.
Were you really? I'm dead. Dude, Clubhouse was crazy at the beginning. You were like one-on-one. Like you could talk to whoever that was
Yeah.
on the Wild West. Clubhouse was wild.
It was so wild. Wait, what happened to Clubhouse?
I don't know. It just like it like literally was so popular and then it just like fell off and we had to do like that whole like all the videography stuff on there because we
Oh
thought
my
it was like the
God.
next big thing.
Honestly, it was fun though.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, I think with Substack, it's like anything else, like lemonade. It's hard. I think one of the things that I really learned and like with at WME and with like our accounts there is that instead of jumping on every platform right away, we kind of wait to see what sticks so that we know where to dedicate our priority and our energy because you can't be 100% on every platform unless obviously you have like a huge team. Most of the time for social you don't, which is unfortunate, but just seeing like what sticks and like what's happening before you like dedicate so many resources into jumping in on that platform I think is really important. You can't gatekeep brands from being on a platform though.
No, but that's a really good point about it is so hard to adapt, like as a company to adapt another platform into your kind of cycle because just being on one platform is a lot. And I've seen a lot of marketers talk about, you can't just have a marketing team and have like one social media manager for all these accounts. Like you really need to have social media as its own team and almost like hiring one person per platform at this moment, it is a lot and you have to be a community manager as well and like responding to people. I mean, every platform is really its own beast and people that haven't kind of started their careers in this world of social media, I don't think they fully grasp that because it's a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Unfortunately, like social just doesn't get the investment and the team energy that maybe it should in like a different department. And it's funny because I also, to that point, it's also like the only sometimes team where like people are giving you feedback where like you would never go up to somebody in like finance and be like, I don't like the way you did that spreadsheet. Like, you know what I mean? But like everyone in the office can come up to you and like be like, are you sure this TikTok is like us? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it's interesting.
Yeah. And the thing is too, is there's never like a right formula with it because people will be like, okay, your brand needs to post this amount of times a day or whatever. But then like, or you can put a ton of resources and work into like one kind of campaign style post every, week or whatever it is. And so there's not a perfect formula to it either. And that's what makes it hard because you kind of have to figure out like what sticks for your brand. In your audience. And yeah, that's so true about everyone has something to say. And I think that's because everyone's on social media that everyone feels like they have that say and because they feel like they know it. But only few have that brain to think about like how to make something kind of take off. Back to Substack. Like we've seen a huge fashion audience on there. There's a ton of people just post like pretending like they're Carrie Bradshaw in their apartment or whatever. And that's when I think if you're like a fashion brand or a beauty brand, it is kind of smart. But if you're a brand there's not a ton of your audience writing on there's not really a vertical for your industry, like don't just jump on it right away.
Right. Totally. And I think like another great way is like maybe brands like engage big creators on Substack instead of like being smart. I mean, do you want to hear from a creator or do you want to hear from a brand? You know what I mean? Like a lot of the times you're more engaged.
Well, and I feel like Substack's like not for product selling. The brands are entering Substack to build community. They're not on there to be like, hey, here's our latest and greatest whatever products. It's a great way to like actually talk to your customers. In like a more authentic way.
Yeah. True.
Maddie, so we'll kind of wrap this up, but one last question we have for you is, do you have your own personal formula for success? Like when it comes to ego, hard work, empathy, willingness, go with the flow, anything like that?
Yeah, I think my formula for me, like a big part of it is hard work. I would say that's like 50 to 75% of it. That's like hard work and drive is there because that's what's going to get you like through each point into the end point. And then creativity, like innovation, I think having like, community, like with what you're doing and working with, if you have like colleagues or if you have a manager, like being collaborative is really important, being respectful of other people's work. And then, execute with precision and like lead with your vision. I think like like Madeline said, like if you have a vision, like especially in March, just really pushing that through and like driving home on that, that's what's going to allow you to execute it.
Love that. All right, Maddie, thank you so much. We are so happy to have you on this podcast. This has been
Thank
amazing.
you guys.
Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you.
it's been so great. Thanks for having me.